Rhonda, whenever you're ready. I'm ready. Everybody ready? All right, go for it. Good evening. It's November 17th. This is a Seabrook Board Budget Review meeting. I have to read this announcement. As chair of the Seabrook School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to executive order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone and additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. We're utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the Seabrook School Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing following phone number 646-876-9923 and webinar ID 897-0548-2425, or by clicking on the following website address. And that's as listed on the agenda for this meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the SAU 21 office at www.sau21.org. If anybody has a problem, please call 603-926-8992 extension 103 or email at revans@sau21.org. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting should be done by roll call vote. Let's start this meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there's anyone in the room with you during the meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Rhonda?
I see Jessica Brown is here, so I'm going to bring her in.
Thanks.
And then I will do roll call. Okay.
Hey, Jessica.
Forrest Carter. Jennifer Hubbard.
Here.
Jen, you're muted.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Sometimes the space bar works and sometimes it doesn't.
You're here, and are you alone?
Oh, yes, I am right now, but people should be coming in shortly.
Okay. Jessica Brown.
I'm at home with family in and out.
Kelly Huber.
Family in and out.
And Mike Rabideau.
Yes, currently alone, I guess, for the evening. I'm not sure. Okay.
Okay. I have the roll call recorded.
All right. Since this meeting is the review of the budget, I will turn it over to Matt Ferrara.
Thank you. So let me just quickly share my screen. So for this evening, where the purpose is to for the school board to review the proposed operating budget and make any appropriate changes and approve a budget to move on to the Seabrook Budget Committee. So in board docs, we've included a number of budget documents, including an Excel spreadsheet outlining every account by line item. We have the budget worksheets that outline every account with an associated narrative. Some other supplemental information such as expendable trust balances, enrollments, and then this PowerPoint that we have up on the screen right now. So for this evening, we go through the PowerPoint, and then at any point, please interrupt me with questions. But if not, at the end of the presentation, we can certainly address any questions or go to any of the aforementioned documents. We can go to specific budget worksheets if we want to, if there are any questions or we want to go more in depth. So, so at this point, I'll start the PowerPoint presentation, and again, please feel free to interrupt me with any questions, and I'll be happy to address. So for this proposed 2021-2022 operating budget, you know, as always, we're looking to align our, you know, what the school's mission and our vision with resource allocation and budget priorities. So essentially what we do is we allocate resources based on how we feel that we can achieve our goal of educating our students. So this year that we're under some pretty significant, you know, there's some economic conditions outside of our control that we've taken into account. And as you'll see in this budget, you know, we've attempted to be as fiscally responsible while prioritizing, you know, important aspects of the educational experience. There are some significant reductions as well, understanding that there will be tax declines, you know, with our town of Seabrook, as well as, you know, community members, families, taxpayers who are or could potentially be suffering due to the current economic climate. So, you know, as always, there are some unavoidable contractual costs embedded in the budget. You know, like this year, there was, you know, one item in particular, you know, through the New Hampshire retirement system that really was you know, out of our control. That was a significant driver. But you know, we took a look at all the, you know, all the accounts that there were some discretionary ability to reduce, and we took a hard look at those accounts, and our principals will attest that it was painful because we had to make priorities, and we had to make decisions to keep this budget as low as possible. So as part of, you know, this budget development, you know, both our principals and the administrative team really did a fantastic job in working with us to bring this forth. Huge kudos to them. Like I said, there were some real hard decisions to make some reductions, while also, you know, trying to provide resource allocation to maintain and enhance our academic programs and experiences. You know, we're looking to continue to, you know, build on that mission, as well as maximize and leverage the continuation of our competency-based education initiative, while maintaining fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers. When looking at our budget, enrollments is always a factor. You know, Seabrook has had fairly consistent enrollment. This current year, there's a slight decrease. You know, we did see some, you know, some families opt to go private or homeschooled, but not a significant number. So you'll see that we fully expect to you know, go back to our normal levels next year after this very slight decrease. And actually, we've already seen an uptick from the start of the year till today. There has been a slight increase as families have moved in or are sending their kids into school. I'll also note that next year, or this, you know, this coming summer fall timeframe, we are looking to conduct enrollment projections. That's really an important part of budgeting. You know, and you know, in any town, yet there could potentially be new developments, new demographic changes that can affect enrollments, and then that in turn will affect how we budget moving forward. But for next year, we took a look at what our current enrollment is, both in school and online. And then we also reached out to families that we were aware of who are homeschooling or private, and to gauge how many of them will be returning next year. So we feel pretty solid about our number for next year. Sorry about that. New computer. So you'll see, overall, we're proposing a budget of $15,721,473. So this is an increase of 4.2%, or $634,338 from prior year. However, you will note that the proposed operating budget is actually lower than the default budget by $21,652, or 0.14% lower. This really reflects, what the hard line we took with budgeting, and where we made some tough decisions, because as you know, the default budget is a prior year's budget plus or minus any contractual or mandated increases or decreases. So the fact that we're coming in lower than the default budget is really a testament to how lean that this budget is. So as I said, this budget reflects significant reductions or level funding of any discretionary accounts, and the overall increase is primarily contractually or legally mandated expenditures. Also, I do want to note that we are not proposing any additional warrant articles for this current year for the March 21 ballot. Again, we, in consideration of the current economic conditions, we feel it's incumbent upon us to try to minimize costs to the town of Seabrook. So, for example, last year we had a roof replacement warrant article for $135,000. We had a natural gas generator warrant article for $30,000. We had a building maintenance expendable trust warrant article for $75,000, and a special education expendable trust warrant article for $50,000. So all told, that's almost $300,000 that we're reducing to zero for this year. So that will also have an effect on the assessment for taxpayers. So it's not just the operating budget; it's also the other warrant articles that this year we're not proposing. So as I mentioned, there are some budget drivers that are affecting this budget. So we took a look across the board where our highest priority is. So we really focused on expenditures that directly affect our students, teaching and learning curriculum. We have no major or significant initiatives or investments in this budget, understanding that there is some economic challenges, and like I said, we expect revenue declines in town. However, we did have increases. Like I said, we have a over $600,000 increase. Primarily, this is due to the state of New Hampshire retirement system. So they increased dramatically the employer contribution for the retirement system. This is to fund the state's pension obligation, and this is across the board, the entire state. This is not just schools; it's police, fire, any municipal employees. So you'll see that across the board in all budgets, and this is a major impact on budgets. Unfortunately, this is one of those areas where the state didn't necessarily properly fund in previous years, and now it's catching up to us. So that retirement increase is $305,573. So that's an increase of 3.22% for teachers and 2.89% for the other school employees. Additionally, we saw an increase in special education of $182,367,000. This includes special education services as well as transportation. And as always, this is based on our students' individualized education plans, their IEPs, which are mandated by state and federal law. Our health insurance is increasing by $106,951,000. So this reflects a 3.4% guaranteed maximum rate. So every year we receive this GMR. This comes from our health insurance carrier. So that's the guaranteed maximum that will pay for our health insurance premiums for next year. We'll receive an actual rate in March. So that may come down slightly. However, we have to budget for that guaranteed maximum, because oftentimes it does come in at that rate. And we don't have a health, so in some districts we have a health insurance expendable trust, and that way we can hedge and under budget this account. However, when we had proposed that last year or the year prior, and it didn't pass that warrant article. So, but this is a good example where we could utilize a health insurance expendable trust to hedge these high costs and under budget, particularly in tough budget years. In addition to the GMR, there were some staffing changes that resulted in plan election changes. So if you have a turnover in staff, and it happens to be a single plan, and then it's replaced by a family plan, obviously that increases. Or a staff member or teacher may have a child, and that changes their plan, or get married, that changes their plan. So in any event, that can go up or down. In this case, we're seeing an increase of almost $107,000. Additionally, we do have our teachers union CBA, so that includes a contractual cost of living adjustment as well as step increases, and that totals up to $254,437. This is voted on and approved at ballot, and it is contractual that we do need to pay out. So all told, those four accounts represent an increase of $849,238. So that's the increase. We have an overall increase of $630,000. So obviously, the rest of the budget was essentially a reduction. When you look at these four accounts are 850, and then the overall budget is 630,000. So some of those reductions, which again, this was a difficult process, but we understand that we need to provide a fiscally responsible budget to the community, is the reduction of 2 educational associate positions. We're eliminating 2 facility staff positions, 3 school nutrition staff positions, 1 transportation coordinator position, and we're eliminating the summer school program and the after school C-STARS tutoring program. So these programs represent a savings of just over $135,000. Additionally, we made some significant cuts to our technology, equipment, training, and supplies accounts, which represent $15,500 in savings. Our facilities accounts were reduced in equipment, furniture, electricity, heating fuels, consultants, fire extinguishers, repair and maintenance, training, grounds, maintenance, and renovations. And that's a total of $62,783 in reductions. Additionally, we reduced our food service, non-food supplies, by $58,000. So I've mentioned the cost of living adjustment. So we have our CBA mandated cost of living adjustment for our teachers at 2.75%. We also have our CESPA employees who are part of the CESPA CBA, and that includes a cost of living adjustment of 1%. And we have our non-union employees. So our non-union employees are our administrators, our administrative assistants, our technology, facilities, food service workers, and what we do for those cost of living adjustments is we tie it to inflation. So we benchmark our cost of living adjustment to the consumer price index for our region. So the CPI or inflation for the last 12 months, so that'd be from July 2019 to July 2020, was 0.8%. So we are proposing a 0.8% cost of living adjustment for our non-union staff.
Can we ask questions as we're going, or?
Yes, please do.
So I have a question. I was wondering, what is the transportation coordinator? What exactly is that?
So that is the, let me pull that up. That's, actually, Stephanie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so it's the bus monitor. So originally we had we were doing 2 positions originally and reduced it down to 1. We had 3 buses that used to go to the Seabrook Rec, and we found that we really needed some monitoring on those buses because the participation on those buses, the students changed almost every day. And it was really hard to make sure the right students were on the bus and keep behaviors in check and things like that. And then I believe 2 years ago, we consolidated it and actually made 1 bus that just went to the rec. And we feel like in doing that, we still kept 1 monitor on, but we're not feeling like we need that monitoring going forward. We have pretty consistent participation in the rec. And with it just being the 1 bus and all of them going to the rec, we feel like we're in a better position with that now. I don't know if there's anything more Aaron wants to say. Or...
I'm driving that bus, and I can tell you that might be a mistake to remove that monitor.
Okay.
So that's, that position is $4,743. And so we can certainly just, that's an item we could look at adding to the budget. We were just looking at potential positions that there were less of a need for. So I mean, that was a feedback we received.
I'm also just wondering, with the cafeteria, I mean, we don't even have a full school in right now, and they're struggling. How are we supposed to feed middle school when they go back in, when you have twice the amount of kids in there?
So 2 of those positions are very part-time. One's a summer position, and one's like a couple hours. They're all very part-time positions. From what I understand, Abby, our food service director, feels that we are, staffed appropriately.
So Matt, let me interrupt and just say, I think the other part you want to explain here is that currently we're down some positions. Do you want to explain and maybe the principals do, where we are now compared to where we should be compared to what you're recommending here? Because
You can speak to that if you want, Matt.
My understanding is
Sure.
you're down positions.
Right, we're essentially not filling the positions. It's not a reduction. We're just not filling vacant positions. Actually, in all of these cases, that's how it worked out. But Stephanie, maybe you can speak to it.
Sure. So 2 of the positions, as Matt alluded to, are part-time positions. One is our summer school program, and usually it's Abby as the director and another support staff for the meals. Where we are not going to have our regular summer school program for regular ed students and just do our extended year program for special education students this coming summer. Abby feels that she could prepare the meals, and it's only 3 days a week. And so she has within her contract that built in. So we don't feel like we would need that. Another even smaller position was something that we added when, if you remember, we were expanding the summer and snack program to SAS and to the Sea Stars program after school. And we had put money in there in case we felt that that work went beyond the regular school hours, and we have never needed that. It's been built into the regular work day. And again, we're not looking at running our regular Sea Stars program for next year at this time out of the district funds. So that would not be needed, and it has never been needed. The other position, basically, we've been down a person for at least the last 5 years. And so we would be looking to basically not continue with that vacant position. I will say it looks like right now, oh my gosh, how can you reduce the staff that we have? But we actually still have a position posted for this year that we haven't filled. It's for our fresh fruits and vegetables program. There's been a lot of turnover in that for years, and that's partially grant funded and partially district funded. So we still have that posted and would maintain that, and that's something that's currently vacant. So that would add another position to what we have at the present. We also have another position that temporarily is not active right now that we'd be looking to make sure that we have that position filled. So we would, even with this proposed budget, have 2 additional people in our kitchen for next year.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Also, so we're not having Sea Stars or summer school in this budget for next year. I find that probably with everything that's been going on and the kids struggling as they are now, I mean, do we think that's a great idea to reduce more instruction time or more learning opportunities at this time?
Really, I would say we went at it like really knowing that we needed to make some cuts in the budget. And I would say we're looking at what will provide the most benefits to the students. So looking at the whole student body, we felt that if we can maintain the positions during the 180 school day and provide those supports for 180 days, that would be the choice over providing 15, 10 to 15 mornings in the summer for a smaller group of students. We will still have the special education program. And this is the district portion of these funds. I know Jessica and I have both talked about, and Jen Thomas, our Title I coordinator, that if we, depending on our Title I funds, we may still run a smaller program in there. In the past, it's been kind of free to anyone, and I think we do more targeted. So as you alluded to, Jessica, there might be students who, because of everything going on, have struggled a little bit more and need some more support. So we would maybe be able to bring those students in and not make it open to all. In terms of the Sea Stars, same situation. I think we're looking at if we can, have more supports during the day rather than and not having to cut those because we're trying to maintain a program just for some after school. That's our focus. Again, with Title I funds, we won't know what those are until around voting time, until the spring. But we may run a smaller program. I've talked to Mary Miller, our Sea Stars coordinator, that maybe we concentrate it. Usually the demand is mostly 1st and 2nd grade. So if that's something we can do out of the grant and concentrate it there, we will. So it's not necessarily that it's completely gone. We will look at it and reassess it. But I think really it was focusing on what services can we provide in a 180-day school year to all students. And unfortunately, considering our budget increases that were out of our control, we felt like we needed to cut some of these other areas.
Thank you. I wish sometimes before we had like budget meetings, we could have these conversations prior to tonight so that we could discuss things before they're actually, out there to be removed or added to the budget. More conversation maybe would be great. So we could ask questions and know what we're doing when we sit down here tonight.
Thank you. So now I'm going to move into the budget by department.
Can I ask a
Um,
question in regards to the summer school?
Sure.
So, all right, so I heard the explanation, Stephanie, and I mean, I guess my only question is that if the children, hopefully the children that are remote learning right now at this point, hopefully they are going to be back into school by the summer. If they are a little behind, how much, so it says right here that the summer school program, it says budget 2,500, decrease 8,260. Can you just explain that to me, Matt?
So there's some fundings available for, so we're maintaining a small portion of summer school. We're maintaining our ESY, so for our services for special education. And again, like Stephanie mentioned, we are, waiting to see how this shakes up, and if there's some types of services that we can provide. If there's a need and extra services that are necessary, we'll look at potentially doing that either via grant funding or out of the operating budget. But like she said, it's where this is a relatively small number of students for a very short period of time. So we're looking at how we can affect the most positive change through the school year, and where we could potentially have savings.
So we're budgeting 2,500 for the summer school. Is that what we're saying?
There's 2,500 remaining, correct? Yes.
Okay.
Right, I just have one more question. What the aides that are being cut out, the 2 positions, is that for middle or elementary?
So there's one for middle and one for elementary.
All right, I just hope that you guys are comfortable with cutting those out, because I remember a year or 2 ago, we fought hard to get a couple of aides that we really needed. And I'm not sure what's changed in the last 2 years, or that we, can afford to cut those out. I just want to know, what's changed. I don't want to do something and then need it.
So those aides, which I only remember because it was my first meeting, were at the primary level. And so I think what I'm sorry to step away for a minute, but I think Stephanie said earlier is there's a focus on EAs at the primary level, right? That EA staffing, priorities around reducing class size in K-2 and providing EAs in those grade levels is a priority in this budget. And so I think it honors those commitments you made as a board a couple of years ago by actually enhancing that staffing at those kindergarten, first grade levels for EAs.
I would just say that, if we didn't cut summer school or C-STARS, it would probably impact our ability to maintain the model that we're trying to have with the EAs at those lower grade levels. So we are still focusing on kindergarten and first grade for EAs to have one in every classroom, and still trying to do as much as we can, working with special education to provide them up to second and third and fourth. But
And as you recall, this past year, we did add an elementary school teacher, which we felt was, it's more benefit to our students to reduce some of those class sizes rather than, potentially add additional educational associates. We feel strongly that will have a larger impact on student learning. So speaking of the teachers, the regular education account does reflect that that additional elementary school teacher as well as an ESOL teacher this past year that was previously grant funded. So we are budgeting $4,684,088 for our regular education budget, which is an increase of almost $100,000 or 2.18%. So that those two additions, as well as the CBA costs, reflect the increase, which were offset by some reductions in substitutes, repair and maintenance of equipment, rental lease equipment, supplies, equipment, books, print media, as well as that aforementioned reduction of the 2 educational associates. Our special education account is budgeted at $2,205,954. That's an increase of $98,137 or 4.66%. I'd mentioned this earlier. There is an increase that's partially due to the CBA cost of living adjustment, but there's also a need for extra staffing with the hire of an LNA. We have an increase in need for some additional professional services. So professional services include, items such as, an occupational therapist, it could be a physical therapist, those type of specialists. And those are based on student need. If you recall, the total cost of special education is actually higher because we also had an increase in transportation, which we'll see later on in the budget. So our student activities budget is $63,215, which is a decrease of $8,870 or 12.3%. And this is based on reductions in our speakers account, our admissions, supplies, and dues and fees accounts. We had just spoke about summer school, which we are maintaining $2,500 in that account. However, we did reduce the bulk of that account by, which is a decrease of $18,260. So that eliminates that program, but we are maintaining the nurse staffing for our ESY program and Title I programming. Guidance is budgeted at $178,582, which is an increase of $25,102 or 16.36%. So this reflects a change in staffing as well as CBA cost of living and step increases. Our health account is budgeted at $158,399. This is an increase of $11,586 or 7.89%. Again, this is this is our CBA cost of living adjustment, as well as associated step increases. Similarly, our speech account is budgeted at $233,387, which is an increase of $8,660 or 3.85%, and again reflects that those CBA costs. We keep our open and other student support account at $1. That's for potential future need. Our improved instruction account is budgeted for $143,831, which is an increase of $538 or 0.38%. And that reflects cost of living adjustments, step increases, and it's reduced by some decreases in our workshop seminars, professional development, and travel accounts. So our educational media budget is $184,097, which is a 1.33% increase, just over $2,400. Again, this is primarily cost of living and step increases, offset by reductions in both our supplies and books, print media accounts. Our computers.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if you want to wait till a certain point. It's up to you.
Please do.
So my question is the guidance where it says budget, we're increasing for staffing. Why are we increasing for staffing?
So we had a change in staffing. So someone left who was at a very low step on our salary schedule, and they were replaced by someone that was higher on the salary schedule. So that was, and then you add on to that the cost of living adjustment, step increases. That reflects a much larger increase than you'd normally have in a school year. But it's one. So next year you won't see that type of increase. It'll be the normal, just 2.75%.
So we're approved, so that one employee was an increase by $25,000? Does that
Correct.
include insurance?
Well, there's
coverage?
actually, it includes 2 employees. We have,
Okay.
so we have 2 guidance counselors. So one was the bulk of it, but it's because the person they were replacing was a very low cost employee.
So. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So computer services is our technology, and we're budgeting that account at $305,148, which is an increase of $261 or 0.09%. So we do have a technology plan that this is aligned to, and that includes our technology replacement cycles, as well as that's as part of our replacement cycles. That includes our Chromebook one-to-one program for our students, as well as our computers for our staff members. So that includes those investments, but we did make some reductions in our computer supplies accounts, our equipment, and workshops and seminars. Our support services account is budgeted at $86,200, which is a decrease of $30,500 or 26.14%. So this reflects that aforementioned elimination of the C-STARS after school tutoring program, as well as the administrative out of school suspension program. So those are contracted services that are being eliminated. Our Board of Education is budgeted at $54,035, which is a slight increase of $124 or 0.23%. And this just reflects a slight increase in the recording secretary stipend, which, as if you recall, that was an agenda item at the last school board meeting. SAU services is the cost at the SAU level, so centralized services for the superintendent, assistant superintendent, human resources, finance department, business administrator, accounts payable, payroll, etc. That is budgeted at $630,159, which is an increase of $28,291. Do you have a question, Kelly?
Yeah, what did you say? I'm sorry about the in-school suspension program. What was that?
So it's actually the out-of-school suspension program that we contract out, and that's been eliminated.
Okay, what is that? When you say it's an out-of-school program.
Yeah, so that's so if you go to, let me pull that up for you.
Thank you.
I'll get the right page. Sorry about that. All right, so we contract Seacoast Youth Services on page. If you go to page 83 on your worksheet.
Yep.
So we contract Seacoast Youth Services for this. It's called Administrative Out of School Suspension, AOS. So they work with students who have been who are in out of school suspension, who can't be in school but still would require some assistance. And from what I understand, we actually have not had much of a need for it recently. So that's an item that we reduced. That was budgeted at $2,500.
Okay, do we have an in-school suspension program? I'm just asking because I'm not familiar.
There is in-school suspension.
Are we keeping that?
That is, I believe we still have in. Aaron, can you speak to that?
Sure, we still have that position right now. That's one of my regular ed EA positions. So that's not one of the positions that was necessarily removed. The EA positions that we removed were positions that aren't currently, we don't have any staff in. So as of right now, we do have that position. Obviously, we're not using it right now, but we do have that position.
So you're utilizing that position for, not to jump the gun, because I know this is, I'm just thinking because you just mentioned in-school suspension. So you're using the in-school suspension program for support right now for the students that have to come in, correct?
The person, the regular ed EA who filled that role last year, yes, is working with students who are in the building. Yep.
Okay.
We don't have in-school suspension happening now, but that
Yeah.
position, that person is still working and is working with students in the building, yes.
Okay, so, and that's why obviously it's not being eliminated for next year. We could talk
Yeah, I
about
mean,
that, because we'll come across that, correct?
it's not a program that's in the budget. That's just one of the, it's a staff member, and that's how we utilize that staff member right now. So,
Okay, all right.
I mean, we would still have a need in some way, shape, or form for in-school suspension, because students will most likely have that need at some point when we're all back in, but I can't speak to exactly how we'll be doing that.
Okay, thank
Forward.
you. All right.
So our SAU services account, so that reflects those centralized services. And as you know, we have been working hard to provide a more of a aligned, cooperative SAU where we can share resources across districts, create some better economies of scale, share some personnel, and we've been successful in providing some cost and performance savings. As you recall, we've had some efficiencies with our Medicaid reimbursement. We've had some savings with transportation, shared transportation for special education, our ESOL services, those type of initiatives where we're looking more across the entire SAU as opposed to just individual districts, where we can provide better service and also better cost savings. Our school administration budget is $601,100, which is an increase of $7,817 or 1.32%. So this reflects a cost of living adjustments, step increases, as well as reductions in workshop seminars, postage, supplies, and dues and fees. Our buildings are so this is buildings and facilities are budgeted at $779,312. This is a fairly significant decrease of $62,649 or 7.44%. So I'd mentioned the reduction of 2 facility staff positions. Again, as Dr. Lupini mentioned, it's a good point. We're not eliminating people. These are vacancies that we have been unable to fill. So we are reducing facilities by 2 staff members, as well as a reduction in consultants, a decrease in our fire extinguisher, repair and maintenance, supplies, electricity, heating supplies, renovations, furniture, and equipment accounts. Our grounds is budgeted at $62,500, which is a decrease of $1,000. This reflects a reduction in our maintenance account.
Hey Matt, I don't mean to go backwards, but if we could go back one slide, I had a question on the C-Stars elimination. Now, just so I'm clear, is that an elimination for next year's potential to have a C-Stars program?
So that's for next year, so 2021, 2022. However, I'm not sure if you were here earlier, but Stephanie did leave open the possibility of some grant funding to continue that program in some manner. It may look a little differently. But yeah, we're looking to eliminate that.
Do we know and maybe Stephanie, you have more of an idea, but do you know what grant you would be looking for funding to be able to continue that?
Sure. So Title I we have used in the past. It's been a combination of Title I and district funded funds for the program. So we're looking at, kind of creative ideas in terms of the highest participation rate and demand has been for first and second grade. So possibly we'd have enough grant funding to do first and second. We've provided transportation in the past. Possibly maybe we don't provide transportation and can use those funds, which we have been Title I, to support the teaching in the program. It's something we'd love to maintain everything for us, but we're looking at, if we can, our focus is on the 180-day regular school day and trying to concentrate there, and not having to make more cuts within the regular school day for supports for our students. But like I said, there's also the potential, I know we've talked about in the past, C-STARS used to be 21st Century Grant funded in the past. And that's something we could explore looking into. You're very familiar with that. I know that supports
Yeah,
SAS.
that's actually exactly what I'm getting at is
Yep.
I don't have any updated information since the last time we've spoken. An RFP has not been okayed. I don't have any information on that, but clearly the need's not gone, and it seems like it's very much COVID-19, very much where we are related for that decision. So once I get more information, I will definitely reach out to you, because I think a 21st C grant for the elementary has been something that we've kind of like toyed around with and wanted for a while, and it may be the perfect year for it. So as soon as I get more information, I will pass that on to you.
I planned on connecting on it. Thanks, Forrest. For those not familiar, 21st Century is closely linked to the Title I grant from the state. And we actually did have a grant under 21st Century for the C-STARS program originally. It was not renewed. I think there were some kind of management issues. And I know when I worked at the state, the application did not come across as complete. So it's definitely something that we have talked about, even with Vic too, I know in the past. So I spoke with Mary Miller earlier yesterday about that possibility as well. So we can definitely connect on that for us.
I love it. That sounds perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. And
Thanks,
with that,
Forrest.
that might be something that we can continue into the summer too, under the 21st Century. So it could help with both of those issues.
Thanks, Forrest. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks.
That's certainly something we'll be looking into. Our vehicle expenses, we're not budgeting any increase. That's $3,200. Our transportation budget is $974,704, which is an increase of just over 100,000, or 11.45%. So this is primarily due to the special education increase, but we also have our standard increase with first student. This is a third year of a 5-year contract, and they supply our daily regular education routes, our athletic, field trip, and other transportation services. Our employee benefits is budgeted at $3,971,163. This is the significant increase to this budget, which is $433,094, or 12.24%. So this is where that New Hampshire retirement system increase is hitting, as well as that health insurance increase. Our debt service is budgeted at $141,837, which is an increase of $15,401, or 12.18%. So this is the principal and interest payments on the bond issue for the building project. The last payment is scheduled for August of 2024. So that's an important date to remember, because that will drop off the budget for that budget year. So the interfund transfer, that reflects a transfer from the general fund to the food service fund. So we have two funds. The general fund is general operations of the school district, and then there's the food service fund, which is the operations of our food service program. They're separated because the food service program receives revenue, so that they receive revenue via payment, out of pocket for school lunch, or state and federal reimbursement through the free and reduced program, National School Lunch Program. If our food service program runs a deficit, then we would have to transfer from the general fund into the food service fund. However, that program has been running at a surplus over the last number of years. So we are only budgeting $1. We do not anticipate the need for this transfer. I will note we do have the food service budgeted at $258,060. This is a significant reduction of $75,797, partially due to those elimination of those part-time positions, but also decreases in our food and milk supplies and non-food supplies. We also reduced this budget by with the intent of utilizing surplus funds, because we've run at a profit the last couple of years, we do have some funds to supplement it. So that will be used to reduce this account. So that brings us to the end of the operating budget. And as I mentioned earlier, the default budget is actually $21,652 higher than the operating budget. The default budget is $15,743,125. So when this budget goes to ballot, the voters will vote on our proposed operating budget. But if that fails, then it goes to the default budget. So in this case, the default budget is actually higher. And the default is calculated by looking at last year's operating budget and then increased or reduced by any contractual obligations, debt service, and then reduced by any one-time expenditures or any reductions in salaries or positions. So that's the default, and this is one of those rare occasions where it's higher than the proposed operating budget. Like I mentioned earlier, due to the current economic conditions, we are not proposing any additional warrant articles. According to the capital improvement plan, we were looking at an HVAC upgrade for this year. However, we did work with our contractor and facilities manager, and they do feel that we can delay it 1 year. So we are recommending that we push it back a year. Our expendable trusts are currently fairly robust. Our special education trust is at just over $306,000. Our building maintenance trust is just over $174,000. So we feel that this is a good year to skip funding those accounts due to the economic conditions. One note is that Sacred Heart did submit a child benefit services petition warrant article, and that's $14,311. So for this evening, we're asking for the school board to approve our proposed operating budget of $15,721,473. But you'll also be asked to vote on the child services petition warrant article. That is a citizen's petition. So you'll vote, and your vote will show up on the warrant article for ballot on whether you recommend that warrant article as well. I know there were a few questions during the presentation, but at this time I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Hey Matt, I actually have a question. And if I missed this with being late to the meeting, my apologies. So the slide before that, it was talking about the nutrition services, and how we are eliminating 2 positions. Now, the reason for eliminating those positions, is that again because there's no need for them? And if there is no need, was that outlined by Abby in the nutrition department? Did she give guidance with that?
Well, we certainly worked closely with Abby. So those are positions that are currently not filled. And actually one of them is a summer program position, which is not needed. But she felt that we could continue the program effectively next year without filling those positions. In an ideal world, would you love to have the extra hands? Of course, but she also understands, and we understand, that this is a difficult budget year, difficult economic conditions. We're trying to bring forth the most fiscally responsible budget as possible. So we had to prioritize our spending, and that was an item that we decided to reduce. But Abby did indicate that she feels that she can operate effectively without those positions.
And so obviously you just mentioned that they're not positions that have been filled yet. So are we forecasting that there's not going to be a negative impact to the nutrition department if we do eliminate these positions?
So she does not feel that it'll be negatively impacted, no.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions from the board members?
It almost looks like my computer keeps freezing up, so I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay. Matt, you were not intending to go through the detail portion, just the presentation, correct?
Right. I mean, we'd be happy to touch upon any individual page or any question, but
I went through the detail portion and answered all the questions for the most part. I mean, you did do an overview about how Abby recommended the two individuals and food service being eliminated and such. So that covers the questions I had. Any other questions? All right. At this point in time, you're looking for a motion to put this forward to the town as a budget. Is that correct? For the school, for SMS, or for the Seabrook? All right. Do I
Kelly,
have?
are you still able to hear us okay?
A little bit, but it looks like now I have can you see me? Because I cannot see myself.
No, we can't see you.
We don't see you, but we do hear you.
Okay, because now I have no video like before. It doesn't say my name, it just shows gray.
Okay. We see your name and we do hear you.
Okay, we're back live. I don't see any other questions on this for us. Jessica, Jen, Kelly. I guess the next thing is to have a motion to move this forward. Is that correct, Matt? Or Bill, I should say? Yeah.
correct. Yep.
I'll make the motion that we approve the 2021 budget. Is that correct?
20, is it 21, 22? Am I missing? No,
21. Yeah, it's 2021, 2022.
2022, right. In the amount of the operating budget, $15,721,473. Is that correct, Matt?
That is correct.
Okay,
Thanks, Mike.
thank you. I'll second that. Not hearing any seconds. Any other discussions on this at this point? All right, Rhonda, would you please take a roll call or a vote call?
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
No.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes,
and Jessica Brown.
No,
I'm sorry.
no.
Okay. I have that vote recorded. The vote passed 3-2.
the other outstanding item is the warrant article for the Sacred Heart School in the amount for child benefit services in the amount of $14,311.
I'll make
Do I have
that
a motion?
motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Jess. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jen. Any further discussions in this one? Rhonda, would you take a vote, please?
Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes,
and Jessica Brown.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded. Motion passed 5-0.
all right.
Mike, may I interrupt for one moment, please?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry to backtrack, but I do just want to clarify that, this would be this meeting would be the opportunity. I know we just voted, but this is the meeting and the opportunity to make any changes to the budget. So if the school board did have any proposed changes, you can make that motion. I know you just voted on it, but I'm sorry if that was not clear. That I just want to make certain that everyone's aware of that distinction.
Oops, sorry about that.
I'm not prepared to make any motions. I just feel like we might be cutting ourselves short. And once we take a position out, it's very hard to get back. And I fear that we're cutting ourselves short on staff. That's just.
I understand 100%. That's, you know what, that's something that we discussed leading as an administration, and it's something we're concerned about as well. But we also understand that we need to bring forth a budget that's fiscally responsible, and that's not going to be a huge increase. And unfortunately, there's some outside conditions that are really affecting this budget. But I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that this would be the form. If you did, I'm not suggesting that you do make any changes, but if you wanted to, for our two new board members, you could make it a motion to make a change. So.
I think it's hard sometimes when you don't have some of the staff here to ask like questions too. Like usually we have we don't have Terry here, we don't have Abby here. So it's really hard to talk to them when they're not here.
Did everybody hear Jessica?
I did.
Okay. All right. Mine's cutting in and out for some reason. Yeah.
So can I say something?
Sure.
I think, I know that when we're approving a budget, I'm really struggling with that. We don't even know what the future is going to bring.
We're not, and no one's going to disagree with you on that one. I think
Right.
the future is difficult, and certainly we don't have the magic wall to really predict, because we're just going into unknown, and we've been doing that since March, unfortunately. And we can throw all the money we want out there, but if we can't make changes, it's just going to sit there. And I think the town and everybody, taxpayers, are really going to look at these budgets this year and say, well, are they being fiscally responsible?
Yeah, I agree. You know what? I can't agree with you more. I think they're going to look at the budget. They're going to have huge issues. They're going to have huge issues with this budget, to be honest with you, because we're having an issue with trying to get students into school but we're cutting staff. But the staff that we are paying for is not in school. So I'm just saying, as a taxpayer, not even a school board member, that's where I'm struggling with this budget.
But you're not cutting teachers. I mean, the premise
No,
that
you're
Matt
right, we're
laid out,
not. We're not having teachers at all, but nobody's in school.
the premise that Matt laid out at the beginning, well, I understand that. Well, they are in school at the elementary level and they have been all
Yeah,
year.
you're correct, you're right. I apologize. And there are,
So-
and I mentioned there
so-
are some other schools that I really appreciate.
So well, okay. But the premise here is that there's been a very conscious effort to decrease class size, to increase the adult to student ratio, particularly in the primary level, because that's what research shows increases student performance. When we look back at the strategy, and we paid a lot of attention to this, when we look back at the strategies that have been used at the school over time, summer programs, whatever, those things have not moved the needle. They have not moved the needle on student achievement. So to continue to spend money on those kinds of things, budgeted money, the premise here is that's not going to do kids as much good as decreasing the class size, increasing the number of adult to kids, and that's what led to this. That's what led to the recommendations. That's the goal, and you know, you're at a 4%. I quite frankly think, Kelly, based on our conversations with the town administrator, it's not about the issues that you laid out. The issue is going to be, can we, in this environment, the environment that we're going to see in December when tax collections come, and I know you work at town hall, so you know some of this, are we going to see what the different town administrators laid out for Matt and me, that they thought they were going to see some decreases in revenue come that time, so that this kind of an increase was going to be very difficult for them to look at. Having nothing to do with what model we're operating, but is this kind of an increase going to be difficult for them to look at? The interesting piece of this conversation and a couple of other districts is what Matt laid out, and that is the fact that actually the default budget ends up being more than the operating budget being proposed. How the taxpayers, how the budget committee, how the taxpayers respond to that is yet to be seen. But the budget's sort of premised on this idea that if we have resources to spend, they should be spent on the classroom. They should be spent in terms of lowering class size, increasing the number of adults who are actually working with kids, because research has shown that's where you see gains in achievement.
Sometimes I don't know that, you know, I hear things outside of the school. People come to us as board members with, you know, issues, looking for them to be resolved, or maybe they don't dare, you know, come forward. And I think that our like I said, our kitchen staff is stressed out. Maybe Abby doesn't, you know, let on to that, but they are. I drive the bus for the rec center. There should be a monitor on that bus. The behavior is really tough on that bus. So it's easy to look on paper and cut things, but when you're actually living it and doing it, you know, you'd probably think twice about cutting it.
Yeah, I don't think it's easy to cut. I agree with you, Jessica, but I don't think it's easy to cut any of those things, right? And as I said, I think the explanation here is that there are open positions in the cafeteria now, right? There are open positions that right now they're trying to fill, but they're not able to fill. There aren't applicants for those positions, right?
But were they prior to COVID?
Yes.
Applicants?
Yeah,
Right.
no, they were open. That some of them, one of them has been my understanding, unless I'm wrong, Stephanie, has been open the majority of the time during the last 2 to 3 or 4 years. Yes.
Yeah,
No, I mean, did we have?
I think this is my 6th year and I don't think we've ever been fully staffed in the kitchen. So really what we're proposing for next year is maintaining the staff that we've actually had in place.
You asked a different question though, Jessica.
I did. Did we have applicants prior to COVID to fill these spots?
No, I don't
No.
believe
I mean, anytime we get one applicant, we have interviewed. I think one, for our fresh fruits and vegetables program, for instance, we have one person that did that 6 years ago and wanted to move on, do something else, and keeps on defaulting because at times we've gotten a person to fill that and they've left in a year. So we've always had some position open.
Any other discussions, questions?
I mean, I definitely am gonna have to offer some support with what Jessica was talking about. Only because and Bill, after hearing, what the baseline reasons are to, obviously increase those more teachers to smaller kid ratios, that's like my language. I totally get that, 100%. But I guess I'm having a hard time kind of making sense of that with the fact that the majority of these positions that we are cutting are positions that would be directly impacting students positively. So if I'm looking on here in the budget summary, we've already talked about the C-STARS after school program. I love that. We at least have an idea where we're going to have some conversations around 21st C. But that right there is directly impactful to kids that it may not be during the school day. But if we're taking a community-wide wraparound view, which is what I thought we were doing, at the beginning of the school year, that was the big emphasis, especially when we talk about the enriched virtual learning, is that we were going to work with community agencies more. Taking that away, that makes me uncomfortable. Again, Stephanie, I'm on the same page with you. I think the 21st C is the route to go. I think that's a great venue as long as there's an RFP, but that again is a really big if too. I look at the summer school program, and Bill, I know that you're talking about it's not pushing the needle, but eliminating a summer school program would never be one of the things on my list. It would be looking at that summer program and figuring out what can we do to give them the resources or the training or whatever that is so that we can push the needle, because there is a gap in time during the end of the school year and the beginning of the school year, and summer definitely is an important time for kids learning. I agree. Going on the list, I see the transportation coordinator. I did not realize, is that the person that is on the bus for the rec center? Because that's a huge, huge position right there. It may not seem like a big deal, or maybe it does, but it doesn't have the gravity of other positions. But that, if you have ever seen the challenges that happen with students that are going to the rec, which is a hugely awesome service when it's available, you definitely want someone on that bus with those kids. Our two educational associates, again, it seems like this is a trend that we're cutting positions that are directly supportive of our kids. And if we are looking to lower that ratio number, why are we getting rid of those two educational associate positions?
Forrest, if I can interrupt you, you weren't here. You weren't here for the beginning of this conversation. It's because we put a teacher in second grade and we put paraprofessionals in every kindergarten and first grade. So the focus was to lower those student to teacher ratios, particularly in primary levels, because as I said earlier, the research shows that that's where it makes a difference. I wouldn't disagree with you on anything that you said, except this. The job that these people are asked to do as we put together a budget is to prioritize, right? And so there have to be things that end up being reduced so that you don't bring a budget in at 7 to 15%, because we know that's not going to work. So they have to prioritize. So I don't disagree with anything you said. Where we might part company, maybe, I don't know, is if we had to choose between this and this, we put forward a budget that shows this, right? That shows that second grade teacher to reduce class size, that shows paraprofessionals in every first grade class, right? That shows those kinds of things, because research has shown that those move the needle. I'm not suggesting I don't want to run summer programs. I'd run 12-month programs if I could. What I'm suggesting is that what you've done in terms of the markers that people look at in terms of student achievement have not moved those needles. So we prioritize other things and said there may be grant funds, maybe they're Title I, maybe there are other grant funds that we don't presently get that can supplement some of those other kinds of things. I'm not going to, I don't know the bus monitor. I don't know that. So but that's what Matt said at the beginning of this. If the board wishes to make a motion as you send a budget forward to put that item back in, that's your prerogative.
I guess, and like I said, I voted to pass this, but re-looking at it and also hearing some of the, the concerns, I'm not saying to take all of the positions that are on there and try to formulate a budget that's gonna, pass it over, and then it's never gonna get passed anyways because the town's not gonna do it. But I definitely would, and I'm sure that we've got other board members that would like to see at least some of these positions to either be reworked into that budget or something like that. I mean, it just seems like there are a lot of positions that we're eliminating right here. And I think Jessica put this perfectly. Once you eliminate a position, it is so difficult to get that position back on the drawing board.
Can I ask a question? We'd have an after-school program anyway for the middle school, correct?
We do.
We do have a summer school program. Do we have a summer school program for middle school children? We do not, correct?
We do not.
Okay, so we don't have, so what do we do for students that are behind during the summer for middle school? Do they get any type of tutoring, or, I'm only asking because I was only aware of summer school for the elementary. So I didn't know if I was not aware of something.
If they don't qualify for extended year programming, then we work during the year with assistants after school to make sure that at the end of the school year, they're where they need to be to move on to the next grade.
Okay,
So we do that.
don't have-
We do that during the school year, after school hours with teachers, sometimes with tutors, with extra support during the school year and not in the summer. That was taken out before I got here, but I believe because there wasn't good attendance in the summer and it didn't prove to be effective.
Okay, so do we have that taking place right now?
Yes, teachers are available for extra support for students who need it. That we have a block of time during the school day, and then there's also after school extra support time as needed.
Okay, that's remote, correct?
Correct.
Going back to Matt's presentation, he clearly outlined a lot of other items that were cut, maybe before Forrest tuned in, but it's not just personnel in the cafeteria and stuff. We have grounds people that we eliminated. We eliminated other services that, this is a bare bones budget. And I don't, based on what I've read going through the detail portion, I don't see where we're going to cut a lot elsewhere and bring back all of these positions or many of these positions, because I don't know where we're going to take it out of. I mean, we've already robbed Peter, and Paul has no money now. So,
But it doesn't, who says you have to take and lower the budget? The driver of this is stuff that is all contractual, and that's normal year to year.
right.
I don't think you're gonna have the taxpayers upset if these kids are losing out on, support staff. Like I said, Mike, yes, there is, positions being cut everywhere, but the people aren't here. Terry's not here. Abby's not here. We can't have a conversation with them. Sometimes, they're going to do what people lean on them to do. And I'm trying not to be disrespectful saying this. I don't really
Lean
know
on's
how
pretty
to do it,
strong.
but you ask people, to cut their budget. And sometimes you might make suggestions, and it may not always be what they think is right, but they know they have to cut. And I'm not saying anybody's at fault. It's just, it is what it is. And they may not feel comfortable speaking up and saying, hey, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to cut this, but they know they have to because they're being asked to cut somewhere,
Right.
So, and I'm not trying to be rude, but it is what it is. That's just, there's no other way to say it.
So we're
And I think,
proposing a
Jessica, if I
budget-
can just say, I think, the SAU administration worked with us, and we knew that we were going to have to make some cuts, and we looked first at what is vacant and how are we functioning with those vacancies. And, these are tough choices. We'd love to have millions more in our budget and have more positions, but I will say that, the approach was looking at what was vacant currently, and seeing, can we maintain without those positions? So it wasn't, like, oh, you got to cut a position from your department and yours. It was, looking, and we kind of each had sections where we had those vacancies. So, I just wanted to kind of clarify that that's where we started. It wasn't like every department had to come up with a position. It was looking there.
I get that. I get that. I'm just saying, sometimes you tell people, look, you gotta cut X amount of dollars, or we need you to, you know what I mean? Cut back. And sometimes that's the only place they can find it, whether they really want to lose that or not. It's what they end up giving up, I guess, is what.
Yeah, they're all tough choices.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, I mean, they were part of all those meetings, and that's what the budget process entails. It's prioritizing, and I mean, we're bringing forth a budget with a $634,000 increase, 4.2% in an economic crisis. So, I mean, like I said, it is your prerogative. If we want to add to this budget, there's nowhere to cut. If you want to add to it, I'd happily add positions and put it. I'm just concerned that when we bring this to the community, there's not going to be support for a 6%, $800,000 increase in budget. But again, that's the school board has a better gauge on your community. So if you feel that you can bring forth that type of budget that'll be supportive, then I'd be happy to bring that forth.
I think it's hard to add, positions when like I said, again, the people are not here that we should be talking to. This is, in all the years I've been on the school board and I've served multiple terms, this is the first budget meeting I've been to without all the department heads here.
Can I just ask why the department heads wouldn't be here? Because I just know that, Bill, like you mentioned, that I work for the town. We just had a budget meeting and all the department heads were there. So I guess I'm just, the meeting is on Zoom, so why wouldn't all the department heads be available to discuss this?
I don't think the budget heads would give you any different answer than what we're giving you. I'm not certain what additional, input they would be able to provide that Stephanie, Aaron, and the SAU can't provide. We can certainly include them in future years if that would make you, if you'd like that, but.
I'm only asking because Jess just mentioned that it had always been the case. So I just didn't know why it would be different this year.
Did we have them all last year? Do you recall? I'm not certain why. I don't think they were at the last year's.
No, I don't remember them last year, no.
I didn't think they came last year either. I think we were trying to be respectful of people's time. So we started last year, had them not come.
Okay.
I think over the years they were at even the budget committee ones, and then it just turned out there were no questions for them, and we felt like we had a good pulse on it. So.
I do not show any of them in attendance in last year's meeting when I look at the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further conversations, questions, requests?
So when you mentioned, Matt, and it makes sense, it really does, when you said, the community is coming forward with the budget, you can't imagine that they would be, able to approve a budget if we didn't make cuts, and that makes sense. The only thing, like I said before, is I'm struggling with is where we're making the cuts. Because I don't know if it was 70 or 75%, in just the middle school wanted the children back, but we're stating that the reasons that we can't have them back, some reasons have to do with where we're cutting. So I think that unfortunately the community is maybe not educated, but they're going to struggle with this budget regardless, I think. I think they're going to struggle with, our kids haven't been in school, sorry, elementary has, I'm sorry, I keep saying that. So I think they're going to struggle with the budget overall regardless.
Well, they might do that, and then they'll end up with the default.
That's unfortunate. I don't know what to say about that.
I mean, that happened 2 years ago in this community. We ended up with a default, which in that case was, Matt, as I recall, about 140 to 180,000 less than the budget that was on the ballot. And we had to go back and cut $180,000 to finalize a budget. That happened 2 years ago.
So all right, so let me just bring the scenario to you. The children go back to school, they end up taking a bus to the rec center, and we have no bus monitor on there. From just my experience and what I've heard and seen, the children that have been experiencing this COVID have had a hard time. And if there was already difficulties on the bus prior to that, because of behaviors, and they haven't been in a structure where they've been with other students, I'm thinking that eliminating a bus monitor is going to be even more difficult.
Look, you're not going to find anybody here who's going to argue against these positions. I think for the third time now, we're saying that we had hard choices to make in bringing you a recommended budget, and we've made it. If you want to restore that position, you are more than entitled to make a motion to restore that position to the budget. And if the board votes to include it, then it will be included in the budget.
Would I have to withdraw my motion if one of the other members would like to do that?
I think it is somewhat tough to do now, although you could ask for a reconsideration, I believe, and add to the budget. Someone could ask for a reconsideration. I would advise you to vote on that reconsideration so that everybody's in agreement to open the budget back up, and then someone could make a motion to restore that position. And Jessica, just so I don't know, you said you drove that bus. I don't want to play your lawyer. I'm not one.
Oh, I'll abstain.
I would abstain from the vote on that. If that indeed is brought up, I would abstain from that if I were.
Absolutely.
Okay, am I able to make a motion to add that transportation coordinator position back in?
No, can I just suggest that first there's a motion to reconsider, and I believe that motion needs to be made by someone who voted yes on the budget. I don't believe it can be made by someone who voted no.
Okay, I will make a motion that we reconsider.
That's good. We can get it from there.
Right.
So now I make the motion that
No, you need a second on that, and you need a vote on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion to reconsider the previous motion for the operating budget and open it back up. Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
and Jessica Brown.
Yes.
I have that vote recorded.
Now, Kelly, you can do that if you wish.
I would like to add to the budget, make a motion to add to the budget for the transportation coordinator position.
And we have the cost of that somewhere, right? We can add that in.
Please.
So that's $4,743.
Thank you.
And you need a second yet, Mike, on that.
Do I hear a second?
I will second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussions? Rhonda, we take the vote, please.
I have a motion to add the transportation coordinator position back into the 2021-2022 operating budget in the amount of $4,743. Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes.
and Jessica Brown.
Abstain.
I have that vote recorded.
Thank you. Any other discussions
Well,
regarding?
Matt, am I correct now? You'd want to get a vote on the entirety of the budget with that included?
Right, so we would want a new motion
Right.
for the operating budget in the amount of $15,726,216.
Matt, that was 216.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make
Okay.
that motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Forrest. I have a motion and a second to increase the budget by the amount as noted by Matt Ferrara. Rhonda, would you please roll call?
Sure. The motion is to approve the revised 2021-2022 operating budget in the amount of $15,726,216. Forrest Carter,
Yes.
Jennifer Hubbard,
Yes.
Kelly Huber,
Yes.
Mike Rabideau,
Yes?
and Jessica Brown. Jessica?
No.
I have that vote recorded. It passed 4-1.
Thank you. I believe the only other item, we have no non-public tonight, correct?
No,
And the other item we have is there's a search committee for,
no, you have you still have I'm sorry, Rhonda, go ahead.
No one has voted on the petition article. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was voted on. Sorry.
okay, I thought so. The only outstanding item is a search committee representative from Seabrook on the interim superintendent search. We're looking for, or Dave Hobbs actually is looking for a member. And Dave, you want to take it over? Do your spiel?
Sure, yeah. Just to be clear, this is separate from the search for a permanent superintendent. This would be a quick turnaround. Just to give you a brief timeline of what we're looking at, we posted it already. We're looking at closing the posting on the 29th of November. And we would conduct interviews shortly thereafter and hopefully have a candidate by mid-December for the joint board's approval. And again, this is separate from the permanent superintendent committee, which will be facilitated by hopefully a consultant.
And Dave, did you mention we do have a couple of dates already set up for meetings for that?
We do. Right now, we're looking at, like I said, the position is posted until the 29th. We are doing a review of applications on December 4th, which is a Friday. Yep. And then we'll be conducting the interviews the following week from the 7th to the 11th, and then hopefully have a name for that joint board. And right now we're pegging the joint board on the 17th of December.
Dave, these are going to be Zoom during the day?
They're going to be Zoom meetings. However, they will be, it's my understanding that they're going to have to be public meetings.
Okay, makes sense. All right, I've served on the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and everything else under the sun. I'm going to step down on that for the next two, actually, both the superintendent and the interim. So one of the members will have to take it. If you want to think about it, and get back to Dave, he would appreciate it.
I got
I
my hands
would.
full with budget committee, so I'm out.
Okay.
I'll do it. I don't mind.
Work, so.
I'm sorry. Was that
I
Jen?
said I'd do it. I don't mind.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. I will reach out to you, Jen, with a schedule that we've already put together in the posting and all the information. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I believe, unless Rhonda has anything else, we can adjourn. I'll take a motion. Is that correct?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. A second, anyone?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Forrest. Thank you, everyone, for attending and going through this. Matt, thanks for the presentation. I hope you can still hear me. It looks like my connection's going bad, but
Is everybody in favor of adjourning?
Wave.
No,
No?
yeah, I'm just kidding.
All right.
I'm all set.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right, you too. Meeting
Okay.
adjourned
Thanksgiving, guys.
at 6:13.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.